It was a perfect sunny afternoon. The sky was clear, the flowers were blooming, and soft music played as guests took their seats. Everyone was excited. It was the wedding day of Emma and Daniel, two people deeply in love. The ceremony was set in a peaceful countryside garden. White chairs lined the green grass, and petals were spread along the aisle. Emma stood behind a large tree with her father, waiting for the music to cue her entrance. Her heart beat fast, not from nerves, but from joy. She had dreamed of this moment for years. As the music started and Emma prepared to step forward, something strange happened. A dog, scruffy, thin, and clearly a stray, walked slowly down the aisle. At first, no one moved. Guests looked at each other, unsure what to do. The dog didn't bark. He didn't run. He just walked calmly, right down the center, as if he had been invited. His fur was dirty, and he had a small limp. But his eyes were gentle and focused straight ahead. Some people giggled quietly. A few others looked annoyed. The groom, Daniel, looked surprised but smiled kindly. He had a soft spot for animals. But when Emma saw the dog, something inside her shifted. Her eyes widened. Her breath caught. She stared at him, not with surprise, but with something deeper. Her father whispered, "Emma, are you okay?" Emma didn't answer right away. She took a slow step forward, then another. Her bouquet dropped from her hands. She walked straight past the rows of guests, her eyes locked on the dog. The dog stopped in the middle of the aisle and sat down. He tilted his head, as if he remembered her. The garden grew quiet. Emma knelt down in front of him, her wedding dress bunching up around her legs. Her hands shook as she reached for his neck. Around his neck was a thin, worn collar. People leaned in to see what was happening. Emma turned the collar around slowly. There was something written on it. The letters were faded, but still there. She gasped. Her eyes filled with tears. On the collar were the words, "For Max. If found, return to Emma." Emma covered her mouth with her hands. She stared at the dog, who was now licking her fingers gently. "It's him," she whispered. "It's Max." Gasps spread through the crowd. Max had been missing for 3 years. Emma's brother, Liam, had once rescued Max as a puppy. They raised him together. Max followed Liam everywhere, even to the ends of their street. But after Liam's sudden death in a car accident, Max had run away. Emma had searched for weeks. Posters, phone calls, everything. But Max was never found. Until now. Until today. Until her wedding. Tears rolled down Emma's cheeks. She wrapped her arms around Max, holding him close. "You came back," she said softly. "You came back to me." Daniel walked up quietly and knelt beside them. He placed his hand on Max's back and looked at Emma with wonder. "Is it really him?" Emma nodded, crying and smiling all at once. The guests stood, clapping gently, many wiping tears from their eyes. The wedding had stopped, but no one minded, because something even more beautiful had just happened. Max had come home, and the story was just beginning. The guests were still in shock. The ceremony had stopped, but no one seemed to care. Everyone stood around Emma, staring at the dog in her arms. Max, her long-lost friend, who had disappeared without a trace 3 years ago, was now here, in the middle of her wedding. Max looked around, his tail wagging weakly. He seemed confused by all the attention, but when he turned back to Emma, his eyes softened. It was as if he knew exactly who she was. She gently stroked his fur, feeling the warmth of his body as if she had just been reunited with a part of herself that she thought was gone forever. "Emma, are you okay?" Daniel asked, his voice soft but filled with concern. Emma nodded, tears still running down her cheeks. She looked up at Daniel, her face a mix of emotions. "It's him. It's Max." Her voice cracked with disbelief. She couldn't stop staring at the dog, as if afraid he might disappear again if she looked away. Daniel glanced down at Max, his eyes widening with surprise. "I thought you lost him for good," he said gently. He knew how much Max meant to Emma. After all, Max had been with her and her brother, Liam, for so many years. "I did," Emma whispered. "I thought I'd never see him again. He ran away after Liam. After Liam died. I looked everywhere for him. But now he's back." Emma wrapped her arms around Max tighter, her heart overflowing with emotion. How was it possible that this dog had returned on her wedding day? It felt like a miracle. "Emma, we need to get him inside," Daniel suggested, glancing at the guests who were still watching. "The ceremony's not over yet, right?" Emma nodded slowly, still in a daze. "Right. I want to finish. I want to marry you. But I need Max here with me. He's part of our family." Daniel smiled softly, understanding completely. "Of course," he said. "Let's bring him inside. We can finish the ceremony and celebrate all of us together." As Emma stood up, holding Max gently in her arms, she walked with Daniel back toward the garden where the guests were waiting. Max was calm now, his eyes tired but peaceful. He had come back, and he was with her once again. The crowd parted as they approached, and many guests whispered with amazement. No one had expected this. A dog showing up at a wedding. But this wasn't just any dog. This was Max, Emma's dog. And his return felt like a sign, like something much bigger than just a coincidence. Once they reached the altar, Emma and Daniel sat down on a nearby bench, and Max lay down beside her feet, resting his head on her lap. The ceremony began again, though it felt different this time. Deeper, more meaningful. Emma couldn't help but think that Liam was somehow watching over them, smiling down from wherever he was. Maybe he had helped guide Max back to her. As the vows continued, Emma spoke with even more emotion than before. She promised Daniel her heart, but now she also felt a promise to Max. A promise that no matter what, they would always be together. "I take you, Daniel," Emma said, her voice steady now. "And I take Max too. We are a family. Always." Daniel smiled, his eyes filled with love for Emma and Max. He bent down and kissed her forehead softly, then gently petted Max's head. "I love you, Emma, and I love him too." The guests cheered. They had all witnessed something incredible, a reunion, a miracle, and a love that had never truly been lost. The dog that had disappeared so suddenly, the one who had been a part of their lives for so long, was finally home. The rest of the ceremony went smoothly. Max stayed by Emma's side, his tail wagging whenever she spoke to him. The sun began to set, casting a warm golden glow over everything. It was a perfect evening for a wedding, and for a reunion. Emma didn't know how Max had found his way back, or how he had known to show up that day. But she did know one thing. No matter what life had thrown at her, she was never truly alone. And now, surrounded by the people she loved, and by Max, she felt complete. After the ceremony ended, everyone gathered in the garden for the reception. The music was soft, and the air smelled sweet with flowers. Emma, Daniel, and Max walked together toward the reception area. The guests were still whispering in amazement, unsure how to react. It wasn't every day a lost dog showed up at a wedding, especially one as important as Emma's. Max, still looking a little tired but calm, stuck close to Emma. He didn't seem to care about all the attention he was getting. He was simply happy to be with her again. And Emma couldn't stop smiling. Her heart felt full. She had the man she loved by her side. And now, she had Max back. But there was one thing she couldn't stop thinking about. How had Max found his way back to her? After all this time, how had he come to be there, at the exact moment of her wedding? As they reached the reception, Emma sat down at a table with Daniel and Max. They had a quiet moment together, away from the busy chatter of the guests. Max rested his head on Emma's lap, his eyes closing in peaceful contentment. "I don't get it," Emma said softly to Daniel. "How could he find me? I mean, we've searched for him everywhere. I put up posters, asked neighbors, called shelters. It just doesn't make sense." Daniel took her hand gently. Maybe it's a sign. Maybe Max was meant to come back today. Maybe he's trying to tell you something. Emma looked down at Max. His ears twitched, but he stayed asleep, his chest rising and falling slowly. The mystery of his return kept swirling in her mind. She had thought she would never see him again, and yet here he was, in the middle of her wedding, no less. "Do you think he's been out there this whole time?" Emma asked. "In the woods, or maybe someone took care of him." Daniel thought for a moment. "I'm not sure. He looks thin and tired, but he's not hurt. It's strange. If he'd been living in the wild, he'd probably be in worse shape." Emma sighed. "I just don't understand. It feels like he came from nowhere." Daniel nodded. "Maybe it's not about understanding. Maybe it's about just being thankful he's back. We don't have to know everything. Sometimes things happen for a reason, even if we don't know what that reason is." Emma smiled at him. "You're right. I should be grateful. He's back, and that's what matters most." They both fell silent for a moment, enjoying the peace of the evening. The sun was setting, casting a warm orange glow over the garden. Guests were laughing and chatting nearby, the clink of glasses filling the air. But Emma's mind kept returning to the question of how Max had found his way home. Later, as the night went on, Emma noticed that Max had started to stir. He raised his head and looked around the reception, his ears perked up. Emma watched him closely. Was he looking for something, or someone? Max stood up slowly, his legs shaky at first, but he soon walked to the edge of the garden, sniffing the air as if he was searching for something. Emma stood up too, feeling a strange pull in her chest. She followed him quietly, not wanting to disturb him. To her surprise, Max walked toward the back of the garden, where the old wooden gate was. He stopped in front of it, looking back at Emma as if waiting for her to catch up. Emma was puzzled. What was Max doing at the gate? There was nothing special there, just a simple entrance to the road outside. She approached him slowly. "Max," she called softly, bending down. "What is it, boy?" Max looked up at her, then turned back to the gate. He pawed at the ground as if trying to tell her something. Emma's heart raced. Could it be that Max was trying to lead her somewhere? "Daniel," she called, turning to look for him. Daniel quickly walked over to her. "What's going on?" he asked, noticing Max's behavior. "I don't know," Emma said, her voice filled with uncertainty. "But it feels like he's trying to tell me something." Daniel crouched down beside her. "Maybe we should check it out." They both looked at Max. The dog was staring at the gate, his body tense, waiting. Emma took a deep breath, feeling a mixture of curiosity and excitement. Could Max really be trying to show them something? Could he be leading them to the answer to the mystery of his return? With Daniel beside her, Emma reached for the gate and gently opened it. Max stepped forward, his tail wagging as he moved toward the unknown. And Emma followed him, heart pounding in her chest, ready to see where Max would lead them next. The wooden gate creaked as Emma pushed it open. Max stepped forward, his nose twitching, his ears alert. Emma glanced at Daniel, who was following closely behind her. Neither of them knew what Max was doing or where he was leading them, but the dog's actions seemed important. There was a sense of purpose in the way Max moved, like he had a mission. Emma held her breath, excitement and nervousness bubbling inside her. "Where do you think he's going?" she whispered to Daniel. "I'm not sure, but it seems like he knows exactly where he's headed," Daniel replied, his voice filled with curiosity. Max trotted ahead, his tail wagging, then paused in front of a small, overgrown path. The path was barely visible, hidden behind thick bushes and wildflowers. It seemed forgotten, like it hadn't been used in a long time. Max turned to Emma, waiting for her to follow. It was as if he was inviting her to come along. "I've never noticed this path before," Emma said quietly, stepping closer. The path seemed to lead deeper into the woods, away from the wedding reception and the laughter of the guests. "Do you think it's safe?" Daniel asked, his brow furrowed with concern. I don't know, Emma admitted, her heart racing. But Max is leading us there for some reason. We have to find out why. With that, Emma stepped onto the path, Max leading the way. The air grew cooler as they moved deeper into the woods. The sound of the wedding party faded, replaced by the soft rustling of leaves and the chirping of birds. Max moved confidently, his nose to the ground, his eyes scanning the surroundings. The path twisted and turned, disappearing behind more trees and thick underbrush. The further they walked, the more it felt like they were stepping back in time. Emma couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to uncover something important, something that had been hidden for years. After walking for what felt like a long time, Max suddenly stopped in front of a large, moss-covered rock. He stood still, looking at it, then glanced back at Emma, his tail wagging slightly. Daniel stepped closer, peering at the rock. There was nothing unusual about it, just an old, weathered rock covered in moss. But as Emma reached out to touch it, she noticed something strange. The rock wasn't just a rock. It had a small, carved inscription on the surface. The letters were faint, barely visible after all these years, but they were there. Emma ran her fingers over the letters, trying to make sense of them. After a few moments, she whispered, "It says, 'To Max, with love, from Liam.'" Daniel blinked in surprise. "What? That doesn't make sense. Why would Liam leave something for Max out here?" Emma's heart pounded in her chest. "I don't know, but it's Liam's handwriting. I know it is." She could feel the tears welling up again. How could Liam have left something for Max here, in the woods, so far from the house? Had he known that Max would return one day? Max stood beside them, his tail wagging gently, as if he understood the importance of the moment. He looked up at Emma with those familiar, trusting eyes. "Liam must have known," Emma whispered. "He must have known something we didn't." The mystery of Max's return was deepening. The dog had been lost for so long, and now it seemed like he had been guided here for a reason. But why? What was Liam trying to tell her? "Do you think this is where Max has been all this time?" Daniel asked, looking around at the surrounding woods. Emma shook her head. "I don't know, but I think he's been here for a reason. Maybe this was Liam's final message, something to bring Max back to me." She stood up, still looking at the inscription on the rock. It was as if Liam had left a part of himself here, hidden in the woods, waiting for the right moment to be found. And now, that moment had come. Emma gently patted Max's head. "You've been such a good boy, haven't you? You've come all this way to bring me something important. I can't believe you found it. I can't believe you found your way back to me." Max barked softly, as if agreeing with her. Emma smiled, wiping the tears from her eyes. She didn't have all the answers yet, but she knew one thing for sure. This journey, this reunion, was far from over. They stood there for a few moments, taking in the quiet of the woods and the weight of the discovery. Emma knew that whatever was happening, it was connected to Liam and Max, and it was something she needed to understand, no matter where it led. "Let's go back," Daniel said, breaking the silence. "We found something important here, but we should head back to the wedding. Max is with us now. We have all the time in the world to figure out the rest." Emma nodded, taking one last look at the carved rock. With Max by her side, and Daniel supporting her, she knew they would uncover the rest of the mystery in time. For now, though, it was enough to have Max back where he belonged. The walk back to the wedding reception felt different. The air was cooler now, and the sky had turned to a soft purple as evening settled in. Emma walked slowly, her mind racing. The discovery of the rock and the inscription had left her with so many questions. Why had Liam left this message? And why had Max returned just now, on her wedding day? Max trotted beside her, his head held high, as if he knew that something important was happening. Emma bent down and gently scratched his ears. "You really have been a good boy, haven't you, Max?" she whispered, her heart full of emotion. Daniel walked beside her, looking at her with understanding. We'll figure this out, Emma. We've come this far. Whatever Liam wanted you to know, we'll find out. Emma nodded, though a part of her felt like the answers were just out of reach. The rock in the woods, the message from Liam. It all felt like a puzzle she was slowly piecing together. But she still didn't understand the bigger picture. When they arrived back at the reception, the music had softened, and the guests were sitting at the tables, enjoying their meals. Emma and Daniel quietly made their way to their seats. Max, still wagging his tail, settled beside Emma, who gently stroked his fur. "Everything okay?" asked Daniel's best man, Jake, who had noticed the quiet return. Emma gave him a small smile. "Yeah," she said softly, "just needed a moment." Emma tried to focus on the rest of the evening. She had so much to celebrate: her marriage to Daniel, the beautiful ceremony, and now Max being back in her life. But the mystery of the woods kept tugging at her. She knew she couldn't ignore it for much longer. Later, when the music was playing again and the guests were dancing, Emma found a quiet spot by the garden, away from the crowd. She needed to think. She needed to understand. Max padded beside her, his warm body a comforting presence as she sat on a bench. The gentle breeze felt cool against her skin, and the stars twinkled above, adding to the peaceful night. Daniel eventually found her, walking quietly to her side. He sat down next to her, his hand brushing against hers. "You okay?" he asked, his voice gentle. Emma nodded but didn't speak for a moment. Then she looked up at him. "Daniel, I keep thinking about the message Max led us to, about the rock in the woods." "I know," Daniel said. "It's strange, right? Why would Liam leave that message? And why now?" "I don't know," Emma said softly. "But I think Liam wanted me to know something. I think he knew Max would come back to me one day. Maybe that's why he left the message. Maybe he knew Max would be the one to bring me peace after everything." Daniel took her hand in his. "You've always had a special bond with Max and with Liam. Maybe this is his way of telling you that it's okay, that he's still with you in some way." Emma thought about that. Maybe Daniel was right. Maybe Liam had always been there, watching over her, even in ways she hadn't understood. Max's return, the hidden message. It all seemed like a reminder that love didn't just disappear. It stayed with you, in your heart, forever. As they sat together, Max stretched out beside them, his eyes half closed in contentment. The peace of the moment settled over Emma like a warm blanket. She didn't have all the answers yet, but she knew that she was exactly where she was meant to be, with Daniel, with Max, and with the love that had never really left her. The evening continued, and Emma felt the weight of the day's emotions begin to lift. There would still be questions to answer, but for now, she was surrounded by the people she loved. And Max was by her side again, as he had always been, her loyal companion through it all. As the music played, Emma stood up and held out her hand to Daniel. "Come on," she said, smiling. "Let's dance." Daniel grinned and took her hand, pulling her close. Max watched them, his tail wagging softly, content to be part of their family once more. The night was filled with joy, laughter, and love, a love that had never truly left. And as they danced together, Emma felt a deep sense of peace. The puzzle wasn't finished yet, but she knew it would come together in time. For now, she had everything she needed. Max, her new husband, and the love of her brother, still with her in ways she could feel, deep in her heart. The wedding night had turned into a dream. The reception was filled with laughter, dancing, and joy. Emma couldn't stop smiling, not only because of the love she felt for Daniel, but also because of the unexpected reunion with Max. It was as if everything in her life had come full circle. Max was back, and Emma felt whole again. As the night wore on, Emma found herself sitting on a quiet bench in the corner of the garden. She was alone for the moment, just taking it all in. The soft music floated in from the reception, but out here, there was peace. The stars above twinkled like tiny diamonds, and the air was cool but comforting. Max lay beside her, his head resting on her feet, while Emma stroked his fur gently. She couldn't help but wonder what the future would hold. She knew that Max's return was special, more than just a lucky coincidence. Something about this moment felt like a new beginning, a chapter in her life that was only just starting. "Are you okay, love?" Daniel's voice broke through her thoughts. Emma looked up to see Daniel walking toward her, a warm smile on his face. He had that look in his eyes, the one that told her he was there for her, no matter what. Emma smiled back, feeling her heart swell with affection. "I'm more than okay," she said softly. "I'm just thinking, about everything. About Max, about Liam, about us." Daniel sat down beside her, his hand gently brushing hers. "It's been a lot to take in, hasn't it?" Emma nodded. "I keep thinking about Liam, and how this all ties together. I still don't fully understand everything, but I think he wanted me to know something. Maybe that he's still here, in a way. That even though he's gone, he's still looking out for me." Daniel squeezed her hand. "I believe that. Max's return, the message in the woods, it feels like Liam's way of telling you he's still with you. And I think it's his way of telling you it's time to move forward, to embrace what's ahead. He's always been a part of you, Emma. And now you have a chance to live with that love, to carry it forward." Emma closed her eyes, letting his words sink in. For so long, she had been grieving the loss of her brother, Liam. But now, with Max's return and Daniel by her side, it felt like she was ready to heal. It wasn't about forgetting Liam, but about finding a way to honor his memory while moving forward with her life. "Thank you," Emma said softly, her voice thick with emotion. "For being here, for understanding. I don't know what I would do without you." Daniel smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You're never alone, Emma. I'm here, and Max is here. We're all here together." Emma's heart swelled with love and gratitude. She had lost so much, but now she had so much more. She had Daniel, who loved her unconditionally, and she had Max, the dog who had been her companion through so many difficult moments. And even though Liam was no longer with her in person, she could feel his presence in the love that surrounded her. "I'm ready for the future," Emma said, her voice steady now. "I'm ready to let go of the past and embrace what comes next. With you, with Max, and with the memory of Liam in my heart." Daniel leaned in and kissed her forehead gently. "We'll take it one step at a time, together." Max lifted his head and looked up at them, as if sensing the shift in the air. His tail wagged, and he stood up, trotting over to Emma's side. She smiled and bent down to pet him. "I think Max agrees," Emma said with a laugh. "We're ready, aren't we, boy?" Max barked softly, his eyes full of loyalty and love. Emma felt a deep sense of peace. Max had returned not just as a dog, but as a symbol of the love that had always been in her life, a love that had never truly left her. As they walked back to the reception together, Emma felt a sense of hope for the future. The mystery of Max's return was still something she hadn't fully figured out, but she realized that it didn't matter. What mattered was the love she had in her life, and the family she had, one that had grown and evolved, but one that would always be with her. And so, the wedding night continued, filled with joy, laughter, and new beginnings. Emma, Daniel, and Max danced together, celebrating not only their love for one another, but also the incredible bond they shared with Liam, whose memory would always remain a part of their lives. The days after the wedding were a blur of happiness and excitement. Emma and Daniel were adjusting to life as a married couple, and they were settling into their new routine together. Max had become a beloved part of their home once again, following Emma everywhere and sleeping at the foot of their bed. There was a peace that had returned to Emma's life, but one question still lingered in her mind. What was the real meaning behind Max's return and the message from Liam in the woods? She couldn't shake the feeling that there was something she was still missing. The message on the rock had been a clue, but it had only raised more questions. Who had left it for Max? And why did Liam's handwriting appear there so many years after his passing? One evening after a quiet dinner, Emma sat on the back porch, staring into the soft, dusky sky. Max lay beside her, contentedly chewing on a toy, while Daniel cleaned up the kitchen inside. The house was peaceful, and Emma felt a sense of comfort in the quiet. But the mystery still nagged at her. Maybe I should visit the old house, Emma murmured to herself, her voice barely above a whisper. The house she and Liam had grown up in was just a short drive away. It had been sold after Liam's death, but it was still a place full of memories. Maybe, just maybe, there was something there that could explain everything. Max perked up his ears at the mention of the old house, as if he understood. Emma smiled at him, running her fingers through his fur. "You want to come with me, boy?" Max's tail wagged, and Emma took it as a yes. She stood up and grabbed her jacket, feeling a sudden determination. She couldn't ignore the feeling that the answers she was looking for were back at the house, buried in the past. Maybe Liam had left something there, something she hadn't found when they first moved out. Or maybe there was a clue that could finally bring her peace. The drive to the old house was quiet. The sky was dark, and the headlights cut through the trees as Emma and Max drove down the familiar road. It had been years since she'd been here, and the memories came flooding back with every turn. The house stood at the end of the lane, looking as it had when she was a child, old and weathered, but still full of memories. When Emma parked the car in front of the house, she hesitated for a moment. The house felt different now. It was no longer a place of sadness, but a place of healing. With Max by her side, she felt ready to face whatever she might find inside. Max jumped out of the car and walked up to the front door, his tail wagging as he sniffed around. Emma followed him, taking a deep breath before she opened the door. The house was empty, silent, and full of dust. The old furniture was gone, but the air still held a trace of the past, of her childhood, of Liam, of all the years they had spent here. Emma walked through the room slowly, letting the memories wash over her. She remembered laughing with Liam in the kitchen, playing games in the living room, and running through the yard with Max. Everything seemed so far away now, yet it felt like it had all happened just yesterday. Max led her upstairs to the old attic. Emma had never really spent much time up there, but something told her that this was where she needed to go. She opened the door and climbed up the creaky stairs, Max following closely behind. The attic was dark, filled with old boxes and forgotten things. Emma flicked on the light, and the dusty room slowly came into view. There were piles of old clothes, old books, and boxes full of memories from her childhood. But one thing caught her eye: an old chest tucked away in the corner of the room. It wasn't a large chest, but it had a strange energy about it. Something told her that whatever was inside might hold the answers she was searching for. With trembling hands, she opened the chest. Inside, there were old photos, letters, and trinkets from her past. She sifted through the items, memories flooding back with each one. And then, buried at the bottom of the chest, she found something that made her heart stop: an old journal. It was Liam's journal. With shaking hands, Emma opened the journal, her eyes scanning the familiar handwriting. The first page was dated just a few months before Liam had passed. She read the words aloud quietly. "I know I'm not going to be here forever. I don't know how much time I have left, but I need to make sure Emma is okay. Max will take care of her, and one day, when she needs him most, he'll find his way back to her." Emma's breath caught in her throat. The journal was a letter to her and Max. Liam had known. He had known that Max would return to her someday. He had left this message, this final gift of love, for her. Tears welled in her eyes as she clutched the journal to her chest. Liam had never truly left her. He was still with her, in every word he had written, in every memory they had shared. The days after Emma found Liam's journal in the attic were filled with quiet reflection. She read the journal over and over, absorbing each word. Liam's love and care for her were clear in every page. He had known he wouldn't be there to protect her, but he had made sure she would never truly be alone. He had trusted Max, their loyal dog, to take care of her. Emma sat in the living room one evening, the journal open on her lap. Max lay beside her, his head resting on her feet. Daniel was out in the garden, but Emma couldn't bring herself to leave the journal. It felt like Liam was speaking to her directly, and in a way, he still was. Each page was a reminder of his love, a love that would never fade. She looked down at Max. He seemed to understand the weight of the moment, his brown eyes calm and steady. "You've done more than I could ever thank you for, Max," Emma whispered, her fingers brushing through his fur. Max wagged his tail softly, as if to tell her that he had only done what he had always been meant to do. He had been more than just a dog. He had been Emma's protector, her friend, and now he was the bridge to the past that had been so hard to face. A soft knock on the door broke the silence. Emma stood up, glancing at Max. "I wonder who that is," she muttered, closing the journal and placing it gently on the coffee table. She walked over to the door and opened it, her face lighting up as she saw who was standing there. It was Jake, Daniel's best man, with a wide smile on his face. "Hey, Emma," he greeted, holding a small package in his hand. "I've got something for you." "Oh, what is it?" Emma asked, surprised but curious. Jake handed her the package, his expression serious now. "I think it's something you've been waiting for." Confused, Emma took the package and carefully untied the ribbon. She opened it to find a small wooden box, intricately carved with patterns that Emma didn't recognize. The box felt old, almost like it had been handed down through generations. "Where did this come from?" Emma asked, looking up at Jake. "I found it in the attic of the old house," Jake replied. "I know you've been going through things up there, and I thought this might be important. It's something Liam kept hidden for a reason." Emma's heart raced as she looked at the box. Could this be another clue from Liam? She took a deep breath, feeling the mixture of excitement and nervousness. Slowly, she opened the box. Inside, there was a small, folded piece of paper. Emma unfolded it, and once again, she saw Liam's familiar handwriting. She began to read aloud, her voice shaking slightly. "To Emma, the one who holds my heart. I've hidden this box for you because I know you'll need it when the time is right. This is the final piece of the puzzle. I've always believed in your strength, and I know that Max will bring you home when you're ready. Trust him, Emma. He'll guide you when you need it most." The tears came without warning. Emma's throat tightened as she read the words over and over, the weight of Liam's love filling her heart. Max, who had been sitting quietly by her side, stood up and nudged her hand gently, as if to comfort her. "I never wanted to say goodbye," Emma whispered to Max, her voice thick with emotion. "But I think Liam knew something I didn't. He knew I would need you. He knew that you would be my strength when I thought I had none." Max's soft bark seemed to answer her, as if telling her that he was always here, that he would always protect her. Emma looked at Jake, who had been watching her with a gentle smile. "Thank you for bringing this to me," she said quietly, her heart full of gratitude. Jake nodded. "I'm just glad it helped. Liam cared about you so much, Emma. He wanted you to know that you'd always have a piece of him with you." As Emma stood there holding the box, the pieces of her life began to fall into place. She had spent so much time grieving, feeling as if she had lost everything. But now, with Max by her side, and the love of Liam still guiding her, she realized that her life had only just begun. The pain of loss would always be there, but it didn't define her. What mattered now was the love she had, the family she had, and the future that was waiting for her. With Max at her feet and Daniel by her side, Emma knew she wasn't alone. She had everything she needed to move forward: love, family, and the unbreakable bond that connected her to Liam, even beyond death. Max wagged his tail once more, and Emma smiled through her tears. She leaned down to pet him, feeling the deep sense of peace wash over her. "Thank you, Max. I'm ready now. We're ready for whatever comes next."